All right, so today we're gonna dive into this kind of crazy question.
Okay.
Can programs that are designed to help women in STEM actually be discriminatory against men?
Hmm. It's certainly a question that gets people riled up.
Yeah.
And it's one that Mark J. Perry, a
Yeah.
scholar at the American Enterprise Institute, has been asking.
Right.
And he's been actually filing Title IX complaints against universities that have these female-only programs.
Yeah, and we're basing this whole deep dive on this Tim Pool podcast segment.
Okay.
And, it's even got someone like Tim Pool who leans right,
Right.
kind of wrestling with how complex this is.
Mhm.
And basically Perry's argument is that these programs, even though they're, maybe coming from a good place,
Right.
still violate Title IX by excluding men.
Yeah, you're familiar with Title IX, I'm sure, so we don't need to go over all the detail.
Right.
But the key takeaway is it says no sex-based discrimination in education
Right.
if you're getting federal funding. And so Perry's saying these women-focused programs are violating that.
Yeah, and he's not talking about just, like a couple little small initiatives here and there,
Right.
like at Georgia Tech.
Oh, wow.
For example, he's going after like an engineering career conference,
Okay.
a student exploring engineering program, all these different tech camps,
Wow.
a mentoring program, faculty awards, even a corporate open house,
Really?
all aimed exclusively at women.
Huh.
And then he's also calling out a girls in engineering, mathematics, and science camp at Florida International University.
So, I mean, a lot of these were probably created to try to encourage women to go into STEM.
Right.
Because they've been so underrepresented historically.
Yeah.
But Perry's saying, yeah, that's great, but
yeah,
you
right.
can't just exclude a big chunk of the student body
Yeah.
based on gender.
So what does he actually want to see happen?
Right. He's not just complaining. He's
Yep.
actually offered 3 possible solutions
Okay.
in his complaints. One is just get rid of all these single gender programs.
Okay.
2, make them all gender neutral,
Right.
so everyone can be included.
Mhm.
And then his third suggestion is start male-only programs.
Wait, so create
Yeah.
male-only programs to...
Even the playing field.
Wouldn't that just be creating, like, more problems?
Well, that's one of the things people are arguing about.
Right.
Like, if you get rid of the programs, you might be hurting the very women they were supposed to help.
Right.
And if you make them gender neutral, you might sort of defeat the purpose of having a space just for women.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you just create male-only programs, are you really fixing anything or are you just flipping it?
Yeah. Yeah. So where does someone like Tim Pool stand on all this?
Well, he doesn't just say Perry's wrong,
Okay.
but he does say, we need to think about whether female-only spaces are important
Right.
and what are the ethics of saying certain people can't be included based on gender.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It's a really hard issue.
It's a tough one. And it shows how hard it is to fix past inequalities
Right.
and at the same time be fair to everyone now.
And it's interesting what Pool said about women now being the majority in a lot of universities.
Right.
So are these programs that were meant to help a marginalized group now mainly helping the majority?
It's ironic.
It's interesting.
And that brings us to the heart of what we're looking at. Are
Right.
these programs still necessary?
Right.
And if so, can they be done in a way that doesn't violate Title IX
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't seem unfair to male students?
Right.
And we have to ask ourselves, is the definition of marginalized changing
Right.
as men enroll less and less in college?
There's so much to unpack here.
Yeah, this is a big one.
So let's take a closer look at what could happen
Okay.
if Perry gets what he wants.
Right. What would that mean?
And what could it mean for the future of these gender equality programs?
Mm-hmm.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This whole thing really kind of throws a wrench in the whole idea of, getting more women into STEM,
Right.
which is important.
It is.
But it's like we're so used to hearing that side of it
Right.
that Perry makes you think about the other side.
Yeah. If we really want equality,
Right.
shouldn't it be for everyone?
Exactly.
It's like we're trying so hard to fix one thing
Uh-huh.
that we're messing things up in another way.
And this is where that whole equity versus equality thing comes in.
No,
Like, equality means everyone gets the same thing.
Right.
But equity means different people might need different help
Okay.
to make things fair.
So are we saying that by focusing so much on women in STEM,
Yeah.
we've kind of forgotten about the men?
It's possible.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be about men versus women. It's
Right.
about everyone getting a fair shot.
Right.
And sometimes being fair means doing things differently.
This is bigger than just Title IX, isn't it?
Way bigger. This is about
Yeah.
affirmative action and diversity and what it even means
Right.
to be like disadvantaged in the first place.
Right. Right. And those arguments are going to get even more heated
Absolutely.
as the demographics change in colleges.
Yeah, more women than men in a lot of places.
Right. And that's what Poole was saying, too.
yeah,
Like, if fewer men are going to college anyway,
right.
are these women-focused programs even still needed?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
But it's not just about how many people are in college.
Right.
It's about why some people aren't going.
Right. Like, is it because they can't afford it?
Right, exactly.
Or because they just don't want to? Or something else?
There could be lots of reasons.
Yeah, so it sounds like we can't just have like a one-size-fits-all solution anymore.
Nope. Things are changing too fast.
Right. We need to be flexible
Exactly. We need to change our strategies as things change.
and be open to these hard conversations.
Yeah, even when it's uncomfortable.
Even when we don't want to.
Yeah, because sometimes that's how you make progress.
Poole makes some good points,
He does.
even if he doesn't have all the answers.
Yeah. Sometimes just asking the right questions
Yeah.
is the first step.
So why should people listening to this even care?
Well, this affects anyone in the education system.
Okay.
Students, parents, teachers, anyone making policies.
Right.
But it's also about fairness and equality
Hmm.
and how we make a society where everyone can do well.
Yeah. It makes you think about your own biases, too.
Absolutely. We all have our own experiences.
Right.
And it's easy to get stuck in our own ways of thinking.
Mm.
We need to hear different viewpoints,
Right.
even if we don't like them.
Because maybe that means we're actually learning something.
Exactly.
Yeah. This whole deep dive is about thinking critically
Uh-huh.
and really understanding these complicated issues.
Yeah, good stuff.
It's funny how this whole conversation is about
Right.
Mark J. Perry.
Yeah, he's definitely at the center of this.
He's become like a lightning rod for
Yeah.
this debate.
Whether you agree with him or not,
Right.
you can't deny he's got people talking.
That's what I like about his approach.
Yeah.
Even if you disagree with him,
Mhm.
it makes you explain why.
You have to think about it.
Yeah, and grapple with it.
He's like a provocateur,
He is.
shaking things up.
Yeah. And sometimes we need that.
We do.
Because if we just stay comfortable,
Right.
nothing changes.
Complacency can be just as bad as discrimination.
Exactly. If we want a just society,
Mm-hmm.
we got to keep asking questions.
Yeah,
And be willing to change our minds.
absolutely.
So where do we go from here?
Well, we keep talking.
Okay.
We keep asking tough questions,
Yeah,
and we listen to different opinions,
even when it's hard,
even when we don't like it.
and realize there's not always a simple answer.
Nope, there rarely is.
This isn't about saying one side is right
Wow.
or wrong.
It's about figuring out
Yeah.
how to make things fair for everyone.
And part of that has to be understanding
Oh.
how we even got here.
Yeah, like what happened in the past.
Yeah. What are the historical things that led to these differences
Right.
between men and women in education,
Especially in STEM.
especially in STEM?
Well, for a long time, women weren't even allowed in college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it wasn't until the late 1800s, early 1900s that they started getting
Yeah.
in bigger numbers.
And even then, I bet they faced a ton of discrimination,
Oh, yeah, tons.
like people telling them they shouldn't be doctors or scientists.
Exactly. There were all these ideas about
Right.
what women were capable of
Yeah.
and what their role should be.
And sadly, some of those ideas are still around today.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But we have made progress,
Oh, absolutely huge progress.
thanks to a lot of people fighting for change.
Yeah, activists and advocates.
And those programs Perry's going after,
Yeah,
they did help.
they did. They gave women support
Yeah.
and mentors to help them in STEM.
But like we've been saying, we have to think about
Uh-huh.
whether those programs are now causing new problems.
Right. Are they making things unequal in a new way?
Yeah. It's tricky,
It is a tough balance.
but understanding the history
Yeah.
helps us see how complicated this is.
It shows us that progress isn't always a straight line.
Right.
There are bumps along the way.
Yeah.
And sometimes we make things worse without meaning to.
But we have to learn from that.
Absolutely. So
Right.
we can keep making things better.
So as we wrap up this part,
Okay.
what are some key things for our listeners to think about?
Well, this isn't a simple issue.
Right.
There's no easy answer. You have to listen to different sides.
And this conversation is going to keep changing
Oh, yeah.
as colleges change.
Absolutely.
So we got to stay informed
Yeah.
and really think about things,
And be open to changing our minds,
even if it's hard,
even if it's uncomfortable.
because we all do better when things are more equal and inclusive.
I agree completely.
A society where everyone can reach their potential,
Yeah.
no matter their gender.
Oh.
Now, before we get to the last part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave you with something to ponder.
All right, I'm listening.
This has been bugging me
Okay.
this whole time.
What is it?
If we agree that the definition of marginalized can change,
Mm.
and that maybe men are becoming the new minority in college,
Interesting.
does that mean we have to totally rethink how we do gender equality?
Wow.
Like, do we need to start making programs just for men? And what would that even look like?
You're really flipping the script.
Yeah, it's like we've come full circle.
Yeah.
And it brings up a whole new set of challenges.
It does.
But it's a conversation we have to have.
We do. We have to keep talking about this.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to do
Okay.
when we come back for the final part of our deep dive.
I can't wait.
Okay, so let's get back to this idea.
All right.
If men really are becoming the minority in college,
Yeah.
should we start focusing on programs just for them?
It's a tough one. It kind of turns everything we thought we knew on its head.
Yeah, it's like reverse affirmative action.
Well, the whole point of affirmative action is to even things out.
Right.
It's about helping the groups that haven't had a fair chance.
So if the data says men are the ones struggling in college now,
Right.
shouldn't they be the ones getting that extra help?
Logically, yeah, but it's not as simple as just switching places.
Okay, what makes it so tricky?
We can't just assume that if one group is doing better, another group is doing worse.
Right, it's not like a pie,
Exactly. It's not a zero-sum game.
where if one slice gets bigger, the others have to shrink.
Right, and sometimes just focusing on the numbers can be misleading.
Okay.
We need to understand the specific challenges men are facing in college.
Like what kind of challenges?
Well, some research suggests that boys might be falling behind in school early on,
Oh, wow.
and that can affect their whole academic journey.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, there are cultural things too.
Okay.
Some people say that how we think about masculinity
Yeah.
might make boys less likely to pursue certain careers or subjects.
So it's not just about getting men into college.
Right.
It's about figuring out why they might not be going in the first place.
Exactly. We need to get to the root of the problem.
And then if we do create programs for men,
Yeah.
how do we make sure they actually work?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, we're in uncharted territory here.
We are. There's no roadmap for this.
So what do we do?
We got to be open to new ideas
Hold
and
on.
be willing to question everything we thought we knew.
What worked before might not work now.
Exactly. We have to be flexible and change with the times.
And maybe we need to think beyond just men and women.
Right.
There are so many different gender identities now.
Absolutely. This is where understanding intersectionality is key.
Okay.
We have to see how gender overlaps with other things.
Yeah.
Like race and class and sexual orientation.
It's like a giant puzzle
It is, but it's a puzzle worth solving.
because a better education system helps everyone,
Exactly one where everyone has a fair chance.
no matter who they are.
Well said.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the big takeaway?
The conversation about gender equality is never over.
Right.
What we thought was the answer yesterday
Yeah.
might not be the answer today.
So we have to keep learning,
Yes.
keep asking questions,
And be open to new ways of thinking,
even if it's uncomfortable.
especially if it's uncomfortable.
And remember, this isn't about one group winning or losing.
Right.
It's about all of us working together
To build a better future.
for everyone.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the complexities of gender equality and the future of education. We'll see you next time.